Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. My name is Saeed Khan, and boy, seriously, what a week it has been. I'm sure we're not even going to be able to get through all of the various topics, but let's see if we can dig right in. Joining us, music writer and author Susan Whiteall. We have former Michigan GOP chairman and businessman Jeff Sakwa.
Co-chair. I don't want that title of chair. Make sure you...
Co-chair. Okay. Sharing the chair, Jeff Sakwa. We've got attorney Steve Fishman. We've got public relations specialist Greg Bowens, and we have co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. So let's go ahead and play a little bit of Friday morning quarterbacking for the week, and we will start with the Gretchen Whitmer Tudor Dixon debates. Who watched it and who watched or just simply read the clip notes? Who wants to give an assessment about what they heard?
Well, I watched it.
Go for it.
I watched it and looked at it from
Okay. What you think, Greg?
Voting perspective and a PR perspective. I was, the setup I thought was kind of lame. The wrinkled curtains behind the guy that was the host, was a bit, off-putting. And then the guy that was asking the questions just kept going on and on and on and on and on.
Because it was a funeral home.
Is that what it was?
It might as well be.
Yeah, it had that look, man. It had that look. And but what I thought was interesting was I was looking for one of them to really lay out the future for the state of Michigan, sort of give us that view of a shining city on a hill and how things could be. And I believe that Governor Whitmer, tried to do that at the end. And then Tudor Dixon was laying out the gloom and doom. It's interesting because I had a block party here not too long, not me, but I was part of a block party on my block. And 6 of the 10 people that, we were standing around talking about politics had not heard of Tudor Dixon, had not heard of her at all.
That's
good.
Scary.
Yeah.
Good.
And on the one hand, it's good because, we understand her views and we know what she's about. On the other hand, it's not so good because people, particularly general election voters, as you know, Jeff, can take a sort of laissez-faire attitude about it and say, well, it doesn't really matter who's in charge. Things are going to be the way they are. And I think that Tudor Dixon didn't necessarily calm people down last night in relationship to knowing that she's part of the MAGA crowd. I think she ginned it up. And the thing that was really disappointing to me with her, and I think that gave a lot of people pause, was her actions or her comments about the governor walking in Black Lives Matter marches, walking in the one that was in Highland Park. And Tudor was just like, she's out there with the criminals, basically, and saying that, look, we just need to get out of the way and let the cops do their job. And that frightens me because, it's our job as the public to tell the cops what their job is.
Well, there's a reason why people don't know who Tudor Dixon is because she doesn't have any money to tell what her story is. And so whether people like what Biden said about the MAGA crowd or not, the party is divided. And I'm proud not to be a MAGA supporter, very proud, okay? And, and they're going to be pointing at us. I had a little clip written about me because when the co-chair made that comment about Pete Buttigieg being a little girl, I couldn't take it anymore. And I went public. And one thing I learned about politics, you guys are all in it. It's a game of addition, not subtraction. So as long as MAGA keeps playing subtraction, they're going to be in the short end of a lot of elections, like 100%. And I'm not going to put up with it anymore. And I begged other people who are leaders to stand up with me. And if you have, by the way, while I was waiting to come on, you have to go read an article. Paul Ryan just came out and said if Trump were to be the nominee, he's the only one to be the nominee that would for sure lose. And I totally agree with that. So either the party gets its act together or it doesn't. And that's the way it's going to be. So I'm surprised Whitmer did a debate. She didn't need to.
Right.
I would assume she got pressure from her own party that you got to do something, but she doesn't need it. She needs to stay. She needs to do the Biden thing. Stay in the basement. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think. Yeah. Go ahead.
Do you think if the race was closer, that TV would have carried it? I don't know.
Well, would TV did.
Well, I mean,
it was streamed in some
exactly.
places.
I didn't even know about
you
it. How
know,
about that? I didn't even know about it. I had no clue. I was at an event last night, and I found out during the thing. Someone texted me, "Are you watching?" I said no, and I wouldn't have wasted my time anyhow. But so.
I
Whitmer,
saw little
Whitmer looks to be.
clips. I was going to say I saw little clips. I didn't get a chance to watch it, and I read about it. But when they start talking about the guns, and Tudor Dixon does the mantra of the Republicans and says Whitmer's going to take your guns away. I mean, it just shows. I mean, there's not a lot of substance there when you start reaching for lines like that. It's just really scare tactics by the Republicans, and I don't think it works particularly.
One of my great sources, one of my brothers is sort of a tough guy Democrat, I like to call him. He's like a John Fetterman kind of Democrat. And so he's sort of in the middle, and he's got conservative aspects to his. And so when he was talking about watching Tudor versus Whitmer, he felt Whitmer just came across as more genuine, whereas they seem to be putting out Tudor as the anti-Gretchen, but she's just as hot or hotter, and it's so visual. It's and it didn't quite work. She's playing a role, and there's really no substance there. Something people are perceiving that. So my bro was even, yeah.
Do you think Susan it would have been effective if Tudor showed up in her vampire outfit again? It is a Halloween season right now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, statewide poll showed Whitmer up by 19. The Free Press most recent poll has Whitmer up by 11, and are kind of reporting that the race is starting to tighten. Nolan Finley over at the Detroit News said that Tudor Dixon won on points. I think that would require that the actual debate had even the energy of a boxing match, but I don't think that was the case. Yeah. So,
anybody know?
But it looks like everybody.
Is there a report on how many people watch it? Can they? How many people watch it? I mean, we're all political people. I didn't even know it was on last night. So, I mean, I can only imagine that nobody watched it. Didn't make a difference one way or the other.
Yeah, we had to go online to watch it on our TV. You know how you can go on your TV and you can go online, and we watched it via the Free Press website. But it wasn't. I don't know. That's
whoever watched it knew who they were voting for. Probably be my guess, but I don't think it changed.
Right. I've already voted. A lot of people have already voted. Yeah.
Allan, you voted twice. Don't lie.
3 times.
3 times a voter.
I got my ballot right here, just waiting for me to.
But I have a question for all you political folk. I thought the same thing this morning. Whenever that Free Press article was out, what percentage of people do they think have already voted? I voted 2 weeks ago. Whenever I got it.
246,000 people have already voted. 1.2 million have their ballots ready. That was in the paper today.
200. That's a large number of votes. So the polls start to mean nothing, don't they? After that, after a while.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's the voting season, and so every day that you wait trying to get your message out is a day that you lose Allan, you lose Steve, and other people.
I don't think Tudor Dixon lost either of us. Jeff and I we had bumped into each other in Birmingham a couple of weeks ago. And really, if you think about it, that initial onslaught of her anti-abortion message, that buried her as far as we were talking about it. Every morning in the gym. I'm watching the same commercial. Oh, no exceptions, no exceptions. How do you dig yourself out of that?
Last night she said that she did have an exception for a woman whose life was in danger. I mean, I was like, that's new.
But that kind of played into Whitmer's narrative of we can't trust her because she keeps changing her message.
Well, Jeff brought up the number of ballots that were out there. And the return rate has been, pretty low. Yep, there's a 1 million plus ballots that are out there. And I noticed I got in the mail this week a flyer from the Secretary of State's office saying, "Hey, return your absentee ballot."
Oh, really? Well, I'm going to say for a general election, I mean, during the primary, like the presidential primary in 2020. I was wrestling with who to vote for in the primary, but in the general, I mean, by now, I mean, look, whatever Tudor Dixon says, isn't going to sway me or Fishman or, or Sakwa really, or anybody else really on this panel. I mean, we watch these debates thinking, well, hopefully the other people are so wishy-washy and can't decide and going back and forth. They're the ones we watch with anticipation. Is that going to sway them? It's not going to sway us.
Let me.
So
here's the big race. The big race isn't governor. You guys understand that. I have never seen an election in my life that's seen less signs out. There's no signs there. I don't know if it's what's the word I'm looking for? People aren't interested, because when Trump was out there, everybody, say what you want about Trump, he got everyone to vote. I mean, everyone to vote, right? And I just think there may be some apathy out there. The people I love talking to waiters and waitresses. Mm-hmm. They don't know who's running for governor. You can go anywhere you want. I'll bet you money. We'll go have lunch. They have no idea. And the commercials aren't as often as before because, number one, Dixon has no money. Why does Whitmer need to waste her money? She doesn't need to waste it. So the Attorney General, Secretary of State, no one knows who our candidates are, which is good for them, because if they knew, wider disparity. Whatever. When Adolf was on the call last time, his words were, "I'll never forget." He goes, "They gave it to us with a ribbon on it. You're welcome." Okay, it's that simple. But the race is for the Senate. The race is for the Senate. No, it's going to happen there. That's the real race. I think everything else is anticlimactic, unless people don't vote because they think that it's a foregone conclusion.
And that Jeffrey is Jeff, my man, is my concern. Yeah. The apathy that exists out there is almost palatable. I'm willing to go out on a limb and say this is going to be the lowest voter turnout for African Americans in 20 years, at least. The messages are not geared towards them. The message on abortion is not geared towards them. The governor, aside from her, defending her march in Highland Park with the Black Lives Matter thing, is not geared towards them. And even though every day I get a new text in my phone, a text, email about going to vote, if you're not telling people why it matters, then the experience that Jeffrey is having is the same experience that we're all going to have. Those waiters and waitresses that he keeps running into, they don't feel like it's going to make a difference. And I can tell you in the Black and brown communities, it's the same thing. It's like, it's no big deal. I mean, nobody's
how much of that, Greg, do you think is the Shree factor?
That's interesting. I had a conversation. I mean, I'm a yellow dog Democrat, so I'm voting the ticket and I'm voting for Shree, even though I'm disappointed that we don't have an African American on the Democratic side. But I was talking to a guy who's an active voter, a prominent businessman, votes every time, votes Democratic, and he did not vote for Shree. He split his ticket. And he voted for the brother who's running in the 13th. That guy, I'm like, come on, man. And he was like, well, it's a protest vote, blah, blah. And he just couldn't. And I said, well, why is that? Is because Shree is like, South Asian? And he was like, nah, man, that's not it. I just feel like that you shouldn't be able to buy an election. And that's what he's done. He's pimped us, And
I saw a great quote by Plato, of all people. The price good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men.
I never heard that, but
I went to Michigan State. I don't know what that means.
Maybe Shree should get him to be his campaign manager. But what about the idea of Proposal 3? Do you think that Proposal 3 will break the way that people view the governor's race, or do you think there's going to be any daylight, meaning splitting the ticket? People voting for Whitmer but voting no on 3.
I think that people are always confused on ballot initiatives. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm pro-choice, but I think shockingly the people that are anti-3 are putting up a pretty goddamn good campaign, because I don't see any commercials on TV for it. I just see the ones
I've seen right after they showed the opposition, they had pro ones saying from nursing organizations,
from medical
doctors,
professionals,
OBGYN. doctors. So they have had a balance, but I mean, they have done as good a campaign as they can do. They haven't come out and said abortion's evil. The whole thing is just, oh my God, this is so confusing, and we don't
confusing.
get it.
Oh my God,
this goes
the
so
moms
far.
around the table. Oh God,
and people are like, yeah, we don't like to be confused. When people are confused about a ballot issue, they vote no, generally, and that's the strategy, I think, for them. Huh?
I think you guys might be surprised. My mother, rest her soul, is very Republican and a very Birmingham Republican. And I was driving her down Woodward one time. She ordered me to roll down her window. She was in her 80s at this point. We were driving past the shrine when they were having their big to-do with the crosses on the front lawn and all the guys out there with signs, and I put it down, and she started yelling at them, giving the finger, my dignified 80-something Republican mother. And she was turned to me and said, look at them. They're all men telling us what to do. So I guarantee you, if she voted for Republicans, she would still vote yes on 3. And I think there are a lot of women who are maybe afraid to tell their husbands that, but would do the same.
The Republican Party, you got a lot of libertarians in the Republican Party. They don't want the government telling anybody. Forget about men. They don't want the government saying what you can do and what you can't do, period. So my challenge with people said, hey, if you want them to have the kid, would you want to take care of the kid? You can adopt a kid. Good luck. You know, whatever.
Right.
And this was a great opportunity on the Democratic side and I've said it on this show, that the abortion fight is going to fuel Democratic activists and turn people out. What I'm disappointed in is that aside from Governor Whitmer and the Attorney General, there hasn't been this broad attempt to identify Democrats as the pro-choice party.
Well,
and the coalition that's working on the Prop 3 thing is made up of Republicans and Democrats and independents.
Dana Nessel has mentioned it in her ads, though. She talks about it
as a Democratic priority.
She doesn't. Well, we know she's Democratic, so
I know that's what I'm saying.
I hear you.
There hasn't been an attempt to define ourselves as being the pro-choice party, and that could really help, because what you're saying, I think, is going to happen in a lot of ways. People, if they vote for to put this in the Constitution, then they can say, well, it doesn't really matter who the governor is because this thing is going to be enshrined in our Constitution. So that concerns me. But on the other hand, I meet women that say, I am a one-issue voter. Any candidate that says that they are not pro-choice is not getting my vote. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
I think women see it in I think there's a larger thing going on with women, though. I mean, we look at Iran, look at those young women over there.
Oh, my God.
Women are feeling kind of under attack, to be frank.
You got 2 women running for governor. I think it's pretty impressive. I think
so too. Yeah, that's the first time.
Well, there has been a spirit of bipartisanship, though, in the country. Yesterday, the House committee responsible for the January 6th hearings unanimously voted to subpoena Donald Trump to appear before the committee. He submitted today a 14 or 16-page letter in response to the committee. 12 of those pages were photographs, particularly of the crowd that showed up to his rally on January the 6th. What are the takeaways from it? I mean, there was quite a bit of juice in the proceedings, or at least the evidence that was provided. Where do we go from here? And certainly, Steve Fish, where's the indictment meter today?
Yeah, man. What's the lineup going to look like?
the indictment meter.
Well, but Fishman's going to defend him. He's going to take the money.
Oh yeah. What did Buddy Holly say? That'll be the day. Okay. The indictment meter to me is as high as it could be. I still say, as I've said on this show 5 or 6 or 10 times, the Georgia case is a lock. It's an absolute lock because it's his own voice and it's his own words, and he's taped by a Republican Secretary of State. But I think the rest of it is he's going to get indicted. Maybe there'll be riots, maybe they won't, but we don't use that as a test for whether we indict people. The one thing I noticed yesterday the most, I thought that footage of Nancy Pelosi and Schumer and McConnell when they were under fire, basically. Nancy Pelosi can come and play on my team anytime she wants.
No, that's right.
Amen.
She can shoot 1-1 at the end of the game. And Chuck Schumer, I wouldn't let that guy walk down the street with me down Rose Lawn and 7 Mile for the life of me. I never saw a guy trembling. That's what we used to call it in Mumford. That guy was scared of the shadow. All he was talking about.
She was impressive. She was
unbelievable under that kind of stress and that kind of fire. And to make sure she said she wanted to punch Trump in the nose. And to make sure she kept saying that it's all his fault, et cetera, and so forth. But the way she handled herself, I just thought was fantastic. I like tough people, and I don't like weenies, which especially different opinions of Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi.
Especially
what I thought was.
I love that she said, and I go to jail and I don't care.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
What I thought was interesting is that they're subpoenaing Trump, and now he's come out. I mean, everyone assumed he'll go. Nah, are you kidding me? I'm not going to go to this clown show or whatever. But he's come out. Apparently, he told Maggie Haberman or something and said, that he's willing to do it if he can go live. Mm-hmm. And one of his attorneys has agreed, which I think is a whole ploy. I mean, what's going to happen is his other attorneys are going to go, "Are you kidding me? You're going to, you're not going on." And he's going to say, "I wanted to go on. I want to testify. I want to give my side of the story, but my attorneys won't let me." I think that's going to end up being the little stuff. But I thought watching it was so, you just each hearing it's so well done. It's such a great presentation. It's so incriminating. I mean, clearly when they do the whole thing where he's already got a speech plan, how he's going to declare victory, how he's going to shut down all the voting, he's going to get the attorney general. I mean, this guy is not a fucking president. This guy should be deported from this country. I mean, he's not a fucking American. I saw his son, Donald Jr., in 2016, the day before the election. He was speaking to a group of businessmen in Grand Circus Park at a barbecue place, and he was going, "My father doesn't need to run, but he loves America." Do we really believe he loves America?
Well, I miss, Jeff, I miss the over Republican, folks that I loved having arguments with about policy and things of that nature.
A lot of his policies in his favor, but he overrides anything that gives it any credibility. And it's discussed. What I told people, January 6th was worse than 9/11 to me because it was our people, right? It was our people.
That's right.
And that's bad. That's really bad. And I know people that look at. I starts with me. You want to run for office? You want to meet with me? I ask the first question I ask is, do you think Trump won or lost? If they say he won, I go, "We're done. Have a nice day." They go, "But," I go, "We're done." There's nothing to talk about for me after that. I don't care what you believe, how good you are. There's nothing to non-starter for me. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And
amen.
Huh? It is.
Yeah. So you think?
By the same token, with all due respect, I wasn't crazy about the Russia hoax either, by the way, but whatever.
Jeff, do you think that you guys, the regular Republicans, will ever get the party back?
Well, I'll tell you what, this thing's gonna be public. I'm beyond disgusted, and there's a lot of people like me are beyond disgusted. A lot of these people have real money. They're not given any candidates. Mm-hmm. And you may have to run a shadow party. That's the only way it's going to get done. And if the people that are in charge right now continue to be in charge, we'll just keep losing elections. For me, burn it to the ground. I'm not here. By the way, do I think Whitmer's the worst? No, I don't. Do I think we can do better? Yes, I do. Obviously, we didn't have anybody that could. But if you really study what happened, you didn't have Tudor Dixon. The idiots couldn't get on the ballot, right? So you hire this Perry Johnson, say he's going to run for president. It's a fact. Allan called him himself, correct, Allan? He spent $7 million to his political consultant get on the ballot, and he's still not upset with him. So that's pretty impressive. You pay a guy $7 million. So there's a guy named John Yob. Those of you in the business know who he is. He's got to go too. Okay. There's a whole underlying thing going on. And sometimes people are more interested in making money or reading their name in the paper than they are doing the right thing. I've known Fishman forever. I want to do the right thing. I'm going to talk to a Democrat every day of my life and see if we can work it out. Peter Meyer, I got to meet him one time. You guys would love him. You know why? He said, Jeff, I'm as conservative as you can get. What's wrong with compromise when you're not in charge? Nothing's wrong with compromise. Those of you who are married, we're not. You guys know what compromise is about, okay? I have to tell my wife when I want her opinion, I'll give it to her. Look what that got me.
Oh, ooh, man! Then the fight started.
Hey, Allan, I think I need a snare drum and 2 drumsticks for next time. Okay.
Probably not the guy you want to have on your show to fight with, because I'm in agreement with, and I know if we were all in Congress right now, the border situation would be resolved. And by the way,
Sure.
that's on Pelosi too. It's on both sides. You got to people are sick and tired. You know, Gretchen Whitmer is a pretty sharp woman. Watch her commercials on TV. Listen very closely. I signed over 900 partisan bills. She knows what we want to hear. That's where the numbers are, but the fringers are controlling both parties, and the country's on fire. It's on fire, and it's terrible. And I have children.
So one of the firebrands there, Jeff, of course, is Alex Jones.
Yep.
Who just had a verdict issued to him of somewhere around the lines of $965 million. Let's just go ahead and round it up to $1 billion for the Sandy Hook case. And I think he still has one other lawsuit still pending, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go to the resident lawyer today. Fish, what do you think about the verdict? Do you think it'll stand? And what does this mean?
Remember, I'm just a criminal lawyer, so just a poor criminal lawyer. I don't know a whole hell of a lot. You got to get Ben Johnson on here if you want experiences with $1 billion. There's not enough money as far as I'm concerned. I'd like to see the guy strung up like Mussolini was, in all honesty. It's astounding to me. And what's worse is that there's people that actually listen to him and that tortured those families. You know, one asshole is one thing, but when one asshole has a platform where he can influence people who obviously either can't read or write or don't care, so that they can do the kinds of things that there's no amount of money, as far as I'm concerned, that can do it. I gotta believe, Saeed, I gotta believe that verdict's going to stand. And that judge, I understand they haven't even got the punitive damages. Some civil lawyer told me yesterday.
Correct.
I don't think is going to be too sympathetic to the guy who talked about her like he has on his show or in public. So he better buckle up, because there might be another $1 billion coming. But here's the saddest thing. You guys know as well as I do. He'll go on his show, he'll start whining and crying, and he'll tell all of his people to start sending him money. And these idiots will send him money. That's the part that gets
he was doing that while the verdict was being read in the courtroom. He was on his show live, and he was mocking the verdict.
He was laughing.
I don't know if he was soliciting funding, but Susan, you're right. He was laughing about it, and I'm sure that his decrepit audience was probably having a few amen moments for that.
Well, you know, I think that the verdict certainly shows one of the things that we're struggling with, that Jeff and all of us have talked about. And that is that there seems to be no penalties for doing the things, for Trump lying in public, for this guy lying about, you know, the poor families, the children that were murdered at that school. And now we have this verdict, and we're wondering whether or not it's actually going to do anything. You know, to be on his show talking about it and mocking it while it's being read and not even be in the courtroom really shows the dismissiveness about it. And it sends a message to everybody that, like, you know, none of this stuff matters. And that's the thing that, you know, from that to like the Flint water trial and all this stuff and Trump never being indicted. I mean, only the poor schmucks that showed up on the Capitol steps are getting indicted. I guess there was another, you know, a father and stepson, you know, just recently. But, you know, Steve, so how do you hold them accountable? I mean, will they get some of that money?
I don't know. I don't do that kind of work, but I know from my friendship with Ben, there's ways to get that kind of money. They get court orders, and you know, if the court orders that such and such gets transferred, or you can't, then you're in contempt and you go to jail. That's really where the guy belongs. The guy really belongs in jail.
He does.
Right. It's really, it's more criminal. Go ahead, Susan.
If we had an operating FCC too, I mean, how can this be allowed? What he has done repeatedly?
Because you got freedom of speech. It is what it is. So
we don't have unlimited freedom of speech, though.
Yep.
Well, obviously, the freedom of speech has limits, or there wouldn't have been this kind of a award. There's so much misinformation going out there. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the internet has been amazing in terms of opening up a platform for people express things like this itself.
Hate speech.
But yeah, but it's also the dangers of the internet, the dangers of people posing as journalists, and it's
like you.
Yeah.
Poser. You're a poser.
Exactly. Oh,
that was a good one. That was a good one.
So looking at a case that actually is about criminal defense, we've got more locally, we've got the Crumbleys. They made a bid to the Michigan Supreme Court to try to have the whole case thrown out, or at the very least trying to get the prosecutors to stop, quote unquote, disseminating information which makes them look bad, including reading pages out of Ethan Crumbly's diary, which shows the parents to be bad parents. It doesn't look like this is going to be successful. But what does it say about these two individuals who don't have deep pockets, who are languishing in prison? I think they were denied bail yet again yesterday. And the whole idea that, is the prosecutor perhaps going a bit too far, that by making the parents seem really, really bad, will that create some sympathy for potential jurors when it comes to the son who actually did commit murders, allegedly? Steve.
Well, there's a number of questions that you pose. That was kind of what I hear in court sometimes from the government lawyers who don't want to just ask one thing. They ask 4 questions at the same time, and then the witness is supposed to respond to it. The part about bond, we talked about this way back when. One sure way to have a hard time getting bond is when you know you've been charged and you go the opposite direction, which is what they did. All the other stuff is sympathetic, blah, blah, blah. But when a judge is considering something, that's something that stands out in her mind, is that they fled. As to the question of whether the prosecution, whether Karen specifically has gone too far, I don't believe she went too far in charging them. I do believe that, I think it gets people's attention. Allan was saying before, how do you change things? I mean, I think parents need to know that if you're completely and totally recklessly negligent, you can get charged with it. Do I agree, though, at the same time? I don't like all this leaking of information. And quite frankly, with some judges, you could be in some deep doo-doo if you, as a prosecutor or United States attorney, start leaking things to the press. We're not supposed to try cases in the press. You guys know, I'll talk to anybody after my case is over. I'll never talk about anything other than make some kind of a flip remark about the case when it's pending. And certainly the government has a responsibility, it seems to me, to not poison the well of prospective jurors by releasing things that may not even ever come out into trial. In terms of how it should be resolved, personally, now that it's been bound over, now that she's made her point, I believe they should offer them some kind of a lesser plea. They've already been locked up for quite some time by now, right? It's been a long time.
It's a year.
A year. I think, quite frankly, is probably sufficient. And I don't think they should proceed to trial. I think that there's the danger, and it doesn't really matter that much about the facts. This case is going to be one of those cases that gets decided by the individual juror's own particular views on certain subjects, like having guns in the house, for instance, like having a kid that's allowed access to guns. There are going to be some people, I think the majority of the jurors will say they're guilty because blah, blah, blah. But you're going to have a definite chance that it's going to be a hung jury, because you're going to have a couple people say, wait a minute, we're going too far. The kid killed killed them all. He's guilty of murder, but we're going too far. We're going to start charging parents with manslaughter because that's what they're charged with. And I think they should resolve it. Doesn't seem like they're getting anywhere close to resolving it, because all they're doing is fighting in public, in the newspapers and in court over.
Right. I agree with Steve. I think they should arrange a plea agreement 1 year or whatever. But it's clear. I mean, look, the kid had some mental health issues. He came to his parents and said he needs help, and instead they say, here's a gun for Christmas. I mean, there's got to be some limit to, I mean, if you're a bad parent, okay, you shouldn't be charged simply because you're a bad parent. But when your kid's reaching out and saying, I'm having mental health issues, you don't address those and you buy him a gun, that's a step too far, I think.
Well, how is it like these days? Not when we were kids, certainly, but these days, if you have a 16-year-old, a high schooler, and he or she has a party at your house, and you provide the alcohol, or you got alcohol all over the place, and it's there, and you don't, and somebody drinks and they go out and they kill somebody, that people get charged with, with that, underage drinking, allowing underage drinking in your house. How is this different, Steve?
I'm not saying that it's. I didn't say they shouldn't be charged. I respect the fact that they were charged, and I respect the fact that they produced enough evidence to justify a bind over. I'm just saying that I don't think this is a career case where, the drinking thing's a little bit different. I think. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's the same analogy, but I'm saying they should get a guilty plea to something. I'm not saying they should dismiss the case and let him out. I just think it's a case that needs to be resolved. I don't like all this publicity that's attached to the parents' case. You want to come in and talk about the kid? You want to talk about the fact that only 30% of the students at Oxford come from a two-parent family, which I happen to have learned from a piece of source. If you want to talk about that kind of stuff, that's stuff the public needs to know and needs to talk about. But I think they've made their point. They got him bound over. They've shown parents out there in the world, at least in Oakland County, that if you do this kind of stuff, you're going to get charged with a felony. You may be held without bond, blah, blah, blah. I think they've made their point, and it's time to move on. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't know. In this case, it was a two-parent family.
Yeah, which is well, of course, when you read all the leaked information, it's a two-parent family, kind of. This way, this one's going
or to use Steve's basketball terminology, maybe a 1-and-1.
Yeah, maybe it's a 1-and-1.
Yeah,
maybe it's a 1-and-1 situation. Well, I think that this disparity between fame and fortune certainly has played out with another celebrity and his own dubious distinctions, and that would be Kanye West. Kanye seems to have been doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on some of his statements and his screeds, going on Fox News, Tucker Carlson, of course, providing a redacted interview, taking out some of the nastier bits, but clearly what has been framed as anti-Semitic remarks by Kanye West, which went beyond his original White Lives Matter shirt at a fashion show. Now comes news that Chase, or JP Morgan Chase, has dropped him from being able to bank at any of their institutions. Is there going to be more fallout for Mr. West? Is it going to be excused as someone who has mental health challenges? Steve?
I think that I can speak for Jeff and Allan. It's not exactly news when people say anti-Semitic things.
Amen.
It's different from the time when we were born, Lengel and I, all the way through Sakwa's growing up. The only thing that's different now is it all gets into the media. It all gets on TV. So when people go, oh my God, the guy doesn't like Jews. No shit. There's a ton of people out there in the world that didn't like us when we were born in the 40s. They didn't like us in the 50s or 60s, and they don't like us now.
My dad used to say that.
What I want to see, you just told me something I didn't know about the bank. I want to see, where are these other so-called conservatives to come out and speak out on it and say, what the fuck is this guy talking about, and how can we possibly stand next to him or celebrate him as an artist or whatever he pretends to be when he makes those kinds of statements? And that, to me, is what I'm looking for. He's an asshole. We all know that, whether he's got mental health issues or not. There's something wrong with him. But where are
I would say Hitler had mental health issue. It didn't do us very well, did it? So.
Exactly.
You're right about that.
I don't think it's right, though, to pin the mental health thing on this, because there's evil and then there's mentally ill, and I don't think
both. He's both.
Yeah, I think that's irrelevant. The music industry has been silent about Kanye, which is disappointing as well. I can't think of anyone who's come out and said anything about this. Now, there's apparently a story that the bank actually notified him before this came out, but apparently he's been saying stuff like this, and people have been censoring it. Like he said something like this at a TMZ interview, and they took it out of the interview, so nobody knew about it until recently. The producer said, "Yeah, he said that stuff to us too, but we didn't include it."
Well, you know what's another thing that's disappointing about that fool is that he really test or cast a dark shadow over the Black Jewish Alliance. You can't have a brother up there saying this kind of foolishness on a public stage. You're not even thinking that. And so the idea, this is what bothers me, and that is that when a Black person does this kind of thing, we don't call them out for the racism that it is, and understanding the context of the Black Jewish Alliance, the way that we've all had to sort of like struggle to overcome this hierarchy of race and civil rights and stuff like that. Nobody gets to do it alone. Our Southeast Asian brothers and sisters, our South Asian brothers and sisters can't do it alone. Our Jewish brothers and sisters can't do it alone. White folks can't do it alone. It takes all of us to create a better world. And when you have a fool like Kanye up there, making those racist comments and being taken seriously, I think that reflects poorly on us.
Whoa. Who took it seriously?
Well, I mean, come on. He still gets crowds. He's running around with Candace Owens.
Hold it. I'm going to say this, and it hurts me to say it, but I'm going to say it anyhow.
Yeah.
People enjoy his music. People don't give a shit what your public. I'm telling you.
No, man, come on.
But let me finish. People will go to his show, say I like his music. He's an asshole, and I believe that's to be the case. And I wouldn't go because I'm a Jew, but I think a lot of people say I love the Jews. I'm going to go see Conway. He'll go. By the way, if he comes to town, he'll sell out the LCA. I can promise you that.
No, I don't think he would. Look at the guy that got the R&B artist. I guess you can kind of cross the line, but you can't be okay with racism. Yeah, you can't. You can't be okay with raping girls.
It doesn't affect them. They are.
R&B artists did. Huh?
Look at Michael Jackson. There's still people supporting Michael Jackson. If you watch the HBO special on Michael Jackson, it's like, oh my God, there's
how come he hasn't been canceled?
Ah, man, Michael
Jackson is still very popular, and
Michael Jackson was not convicted of raping anybody, man.
My God, if you watch that HBO special, you will have no doubt. Two guys who didn't know each other, the exact same stories, talking about all that stuff. It's so indicting. It's so overwhelming.
A lot of people.
You can be indicted in the court of public opinion, but I stand with Fishman on the whole. As a society that has laws, if you're found guilty, that's one thing. If you're not, so to condemn somebody, Allan, who's never been convicted of anything is.
Oh my God! Well,
look, the guy. Who cares? He's dead.
Yeah, he's dead.
He's dead, but he still hasn't been canceled.
People have lost their careers and haven't been convicted of anything.
Right.
Well, to lose your career is one thing. To lose your freedom is another.
Well, by the way, I'm going to tell you guys something because I'm privy to this. When Michael Jackson, whoever his record label is, called, I have a friend very in the radio business. They said they weren't going to play him. They said, if you don't play him, we're not going to do this and this for you. They're going to protect Michael Jackson because there's a lot of royalties involved in his music.
Well, Susan,
I'll tell you what.
Susan,
I'll tell you what. In terms of Kanye, what it reminds me of, it's not mental illness; it's shock value. He's trying to get attention by shocking everybody, saying the worst possible thing he can say. It's like the Sex Pistols, and I don't think it's any accident that Johnny Rotten's a Trumper.
Would you make the comparison? I remember, a few decades ago now, there was Professor Griff from the band Public Enemy. He was the so-called Minister of Information, and he said that Jews are responsible for the wickedness in the world. A big fan of Louis Farrakhan. And it seems as though that certainly adversely impacted Public Enemy. In the case of Kanye, though, you have Adidas, you have his own fashion line. In the case of Michael Jackson, these were multi-million to billion-dollar industries.
Right.
It seems as though the consumerism is at another level than just simply saying, well, he sucks, but I like the music. There's the clothing, there's everything else involved too, isn't it?
There is, and for instance, with Van Morrison, I may deplore his views on vaccines and this and that. I'd still go see him because of the music, but he's not getting paid billions of dollars by Adidas or whoever. They don't want old Irish guys wearing their footwear, you know. So,
well, if they have like special insoles inside, maybe. But I think Van needs them.
Well,
see, this is why I keep telling you, Greg.
What about Farrakhan speaking at the NAACP, coming to Michigan, Detroit every year and giving them a stage?
But
right?
That's not true. What are you talking about? I go to that dinner. Farrakhan does not come.
No.
I
said I go. No. Brenda Jones always let it. No. I'm not. I misspoke. Excuse me. But Brenda Jones always let him speak. Whatever it is what it is. So
Brenda Jones was the president of Detroit City Council, not the president of the NAACP.
No, I said I misspoke. I meant Brenda. She came to me for money. So why do you? Well, I have to let him speak. I go, no, you don't. No, you don't.
So I just
all I know is I never heard this kind of language from Vanilla Ice. I'm just saying.
Look, I don't listen to Kid Rock music because he's a bigot. You know, I don't care if he had a house on the Detroit River. He hoisted that flag, runs around with Trump. You know, I don't have any time for that. I'm not supporting that. And now that I know that Adidas is supporting Kanye, I'm not buying any of their stuff either.
No, I think they pulled it. I think they terminated the arrangement.
Oh,
Steve.
okay. All right.
I just want to say before we leave this subject, I'm glad Greg explained to Sakwa and Allan and I that we have the Black Jewish Alliance. When I get home, I'm going to tell my wife that for 40 years we've been involved in an alliance. I just thought we were married, but I'm
well, I mean, look, the civil rights movement.
No, I'm not kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, Jewish folks played a big part.
Call it an alliance, call it a compromise, as Sakwa said earlier. There are many ways to describe it.
Yeah.
Well, I will be honest. I would like to see a stronger alliance, between us and our Asian folks, particularly those from Pakistan, India, and stuff like that. I don't think that we're particularly strong in creating a solid wall in advancing social justice and civil rights.
Greg, I was a commissioner on the Civil Rights Commission.
Oh, okay.
I was beyond excited to be on there, and I will tell you, it's probably the worst thing I've ever served on in my life. It was,
Why do you say that?
It was all politics. It was really, 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 really sad. Really, really sad, because it's bad. And right now, I will tell you, this is 2022.
Right.
It's worse than it's ever been, and it's really, really sad. The bad news is, yes, it's more than just Jews and African Americans that are being picked on. It's pathetic. It's just pathetic.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the people losing their mind about books in Dearborn. And
thank you for the segue, Greg, because that's where we're going. Damn, I knew there was something about you other than wearing similar fashion to me.
Hey, I'm with you, man. Saeed,
take it away. There you go. So the the Dearborn School Board has had multiple meetings about the presence of 6 books in the school libraries, which deal with subjects from the LGBTQ community. There have been very public and very vocal, and in some cases very chaotic meetings with a lot of very inflammatory rhetoric going back and forth on this particular topic, including last night. Greg, take it away.
Well, the thing that concerns me about that is it wasn't too long ago that we have fools showing up in Dearborn burning the Quran and saying that if you elect, our Muslim brothers and sisters, they are going to institute Sharia law. Am I saying the word right? Anybody know?
Yep.
And here we go.
That's how we pronounce law as well, Greg. So yeah.
Are you Muslim? I don't know if you're Muslim. I don't want to assume.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Are you like
Muslim, not Arab?
Are you like straight up Muslim? Like, you don't eat pork and you don't drink and all that stuff, or
don't eat pork? Yeah.
No casual.
Really, I'm a Jew, but you're really missing out on the bacon. I'm being honest with you.
But I mean,
turkey bacon, man. But
by engaging in public discourse in this kind of virulent fashion over these books and stuff like that, I think pulls that string of bigotry where people are saying, see, See, we told you this is what it was going to be like. And God forbid we have like an incident that brings light, like, 9/11. We don't want to have that. But anything that casts a light on our Muslim brothers and sisters, they're going to point to Dearborn and say, what's coming next? Headscarves and, face masks.
I remember after the Pulse nightclub massacre in Florida, that the LGBTQ community, especially the advocates and the activists in the community, were very quick to point out that they were not holding the entire Muslim community responsible for the acts of one individual. At a very delicate time in, I think, Muslim American relations. It's just really interesting to see not only that not being reciprocated, but also this idea, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, I mean, you hear a lot of language being thrown around that this is pornography, this is this. From a legal perspective, it's not any of those things.
Well, you're getting me kind of out of my bailiwick again. I don't really have too much to talk about that.
Okay, fine.
Go ahead, Susan. We'll let the non-lawyers do the legal stuff.
Yeah. I think, with young people, time's going to take care of this. They can get anything they want via the internet. And there was a great quote in the Free Press story by a high school junior, young woman. She was talking about how tolerance for marginalized communities, is something that they should be aware of. And she said it's hypocritical for Arabs and Muslims to be judging people that have contrary beliefs to them. We are not a favored race or religion ourselves. And, she did 16 years old, and she's making more sense than the adults.
And the adults, exactly. All right, Allan, I think
all right.
Time of the show.
This is my buddy Robert Wells, who Fishman knows. I call him the mayor of Griswold in downtown Detroit.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the week.
All right, a local endorsement. Who wants to go first with a schmuck of the week?
Is he Jewish? Was that guy Jewish?
We had to rehearse that a couple times because we had a hard time saying schmuck, right?
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the week.
It's schmuck. It's schmuck. Okay, Fish, go ahead.
Rob's way of saying schmuck reminded me of Smokey Robinson trying to say Chinooka when he pronounced Hanukkah as Chinooka. And here's a guy from Detroit who worked at Motown. A couple of guys I knew, Jewish guys, worked there, but maybe it was Chinooka to him. I don't know. My week is Ben Sass, which is a really odd schmuck of the week, but based on what he has tried to do, there's a great column in the Washington Post that really talks about him. He tried to be all things to all people, right? He was going to criticize Trump. And then he decided, well, I'll criticize him a little bit, blah, 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 blah. Then he and his buddy DeSantis figure out a way to get him appointed chancellor down there at the University of Florida. I guess it never crossed his mind that maybe the students and some other people, some of the professors would have anything to say about it. And it appears that my schmuck of the week, ex-Senator Sass, had to flee in a car because there was so much protesting going on around wherever the hell he was down there trying to accept his chancellorship. So
that's funny.
To me, it kind of shows you can't have your feet in too many piles before eventually it catches up to you. So that's my guy.
Yeah. All right.
Missing the part that people in university actually do read.
Right.
So, yeah, there you go. Susan, who's your schmuck of the week?
Mine's going to be different than the rest of you guys. Jan Wenner, who has a new memoir out.
Oh.
Everyone's been asking me what I think of it. It's like, I'm tired of it. Okay, so here it is. He's a schmuck because all he talks about in the book is how wonderful his star friends are, and he name drops all the time. And when they ask, when he's talking about any competition, he doesn't mention Detroit's own Cream magazine. We were number 2 to them in the 70s, and they kind of lied about their circulation. It wasn't as big as they said it was. Anyway. He's so self-serving.
I exaggerate sometimes about other things, but go ahead.
He's self-serving and self-absorbed, and it's just it's ridiculous. But unfortunately, everybody's reading it.
Yeah.
Well, not I, but thank you for dissuading me from that. Okay,
it's been promoted quite a bit on TV, so he's getting the publicity. Okay. But.
Greg,
man, my schmuck of the week is that Reverend Jack Baker guy who just got convicted for sexually assaulting a 7-year-old. He was a priest, and I just, it's just beyond the pale, man. I just, gee, come on, really? I mean, if that guy, Schmuck is probably too nice of a word.
I think he likes
Mumser. There's always Mumser.
Is there Mumser?
Mumser's the ultimate.
Yes.
I think he likes schmucks. That's what his problem was. But
oh yeah. Again with the
Yeah,
that's time.
We're gonna.
Okay.
I'm gonna get that.
Jeff.
I'm gonna get that on here. So.
Okay.
I'm gonna agree with Greg. I don't think there's anything more disgusting than someone you put full trust and confidence in and takes advantage of a young person and ruin their entire life. It's pales about anything else we talk. It's only one person, but it's a reflection on society and as a whole that exists out there. And yeah, we talked about, I think every person we talked to was Schmuck of the Week this week. We talked about, I mean, it was we could maybe do Schmuck Week or something. I don't know.
Schmuck Week. Kanye, yeah.
Well,
Kanye,
at the end of the year, we're going to do Schmuck of the Year as well. Okay, Allan.
I'm going to go with Senator Rick Scott and Tom Cotton, who have been down in Georgia stomping for Herschel Walker, who I can't imagine that they really believe in the guy, except that he's another vote for the Republicans. I mean, it's shameful that, first of all, it's shameful that Herschel Walker is a candidate. That's the best you can put forward, is a guy who is
it wasn't the best we could forward. The guy that said Trump won the election. He got endorsed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's Herschel Walker is a total schmuck, but these two guys, Senator Scott and Senator Tom Cotton, who are particularly Tom Cotton, who's a schmuck every week. But
yeah, just generally.
Generally, right, exactly.
Hey, Alan, let me ask you a serious question. If the situation reversed and needed one vote to take over the Senate, you don't think the Democrats would do the same thing?
No, we throw people under the bus all the time, man.
You kind of hope they wouldn't, but who knows?
One vote in the Senate. You guys, no.
You know what the one thing that really bothers me is when all these allegations come up about Herschel Walker. Normally, even the Republicans back in the day would say, let's find out the facts before we go out on Front Street and defend him. But here they don't even care. Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, right away they're like, we're behind Herschel, we don't care, whatever.
Did you see what happened when it came home last night? The guy in Nevada, his family came out and endorsed the other candidate.
Oh wow, yeah, 14, that happens.
14 members.
By the way, they never mentioned his name. They just said vote for the other person. It's very
Well, Jeff, I got to remind you that we lost a senator on the Democratic side because the antics of that Jewish comedian who got Me Too'd.
Al Franken.
Yeah.
Al Franken came in. We had him for an event at Bar-Ilan. He was fantastic, by the way.
So Democrats, if the shoe was on the other foot and Herschel was a Democrat, he would have been jettisoned a long time ago.
Well, I disagree with you, Greg. They got rid of him before the election. This is during the election with one seat. I'm not saying I'm pro Herschel Walker. He should win.
Yeah, depending on that guy.
I'm just saying taking the control of the Senate's a pretty big deal. And I think both sides, just like Fishman will disagree with me on this. If the situation happened when they appointed the Supreme Court candidate, the Democrats would have done the same thing. They would have got somebody in there quickly.
Well, why would you even want that fool walking around the Senate?
That would be good for a debate in the future. So my schmuck of the week is Elon Musk, because he's looking to remove the Starlink internet access that he had given to the Ukraine so that they could stay connected to each other in the world. But now he claims that SpaceX can no longer afford to fund it, but also because the Ukrainian ambassador to Germany told him to fuck off. And so this is Elon Musk saying, this is how I'm going to fuck off, and I'm taking my toys away with me. So Elon Musk, you're my schmuck of the week. Anyways, thank you everyone for
how not to be a good ambassador. How about that?
Shonda. Steve Fishman, Jeffrey Sakwa, Greg Bowens, Susan Whiteall, thank you for being here. Allan, of course, thank you for being here, and you got the last word.
And
Drive home safely. Drive home safely.